Hey YouTube, Toy here, bringing you all an update to my Synchron Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile for November 2020. A lot of you have been requesting an update to the Synchron deck since the last Yu-Gi-Oh ban list with the hit of Jet Synchron. It definitely did, hurt the deck more just because this card was being used in so many other decks, and this one definitely helped with the overall setup of all your different synchro plays, but still playable just without the card. Definitely, like I said, did take a hit on the deck, but you're still able to do plenty of the different synchro summons you can do with the deck. We just had to, look at different options for what we can use for tuners and the overall setup of the playstyle of the deck, which is to get out a bunch of different strong synchros using our different Synchron monsters. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for our tuners in the deck, for our go-to synchro summons, we run 3 Junk Synchron. Definitely one of my favorite in the deck. When this card is normal summon, you can special summon 1 level 2 or lower monster from your graveyard in face-up defense position, but that monster's effect is negated. So when you have all your other non-tuner monsters set up in your graveyard, just being able to special summon them back onto the field with Junk Synchron, and then go into plenty of our synchro monsters, which we run in the extra deck. It's just that 1 card synchro summon that late game can definitely come in handy, just giving you that 1 tuner in the hand, but giving you plenty of options for your synchro summons all together onto the field. So this is why I definitely like running 3 of this card in the deck, and the fact that it is also just that much searchable, and potential setup with cards like tuning are that much useful of a ace go-to tuner monster in the deck for sure. For some of our other tuner monsters, I also run 2 Quick Draw Synchron. You can special summon this card from your hand by sending 1 monster from your hand to the graveyard and special summoning this card. It can also count as any of the Synchron tuners you would use for the synchro summon of a monster on the field. That monster must be used as the Synchron material monster, except for the synchro summon of that monster to summon this card out. So you can use it in turn for cards like Road Warrior or Nitro Warrior, you name it. It can copy and be the tuner that we would use normally, meaning we don't have to use those cards in the deck, and we can just use Quick Draw Synchron with all the other non-tuner monsters we rely on. I only run the 2 though. It's once again searchable, and you can't normal summon it. It has to be special summon, so you're kind of limited if this is the only card in your hand and you have no other setup to go for. And I also run 2 Satellite Synchron. If a monster is special summoned from your graveyard, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. If you have a Synchro monster with Warrior, Synchron, or Stardust into original name on the field or graveyard, you can make this card's level become 4 until the end of this turn. You can only use each effect of Satellite Synchron once per turn. So being another tuner for the graveyard setup, it's why I like it. It's not exactly Jet Synchron, but still, trying to work its way to be the best for the setup for a bunch of our different, more powerful monsters like Satellite Warrior in the deck. That's why I like to rely on 2 Satellite Synchron as that go-to tuner. Like I said, can't replace Jet Synchron, but can still help with that, overall setup with its level adjustment and just being there as a good tuner to go into. For some of the non-tuner, monsters for the deck, I run 3 Junk Converter. You can discard this card and 1 tuner to add 1 Synchron monster from your deck to your hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard as the Synchro material, you can target 1 tuner in your graveyard, special summon it in defense position, but it cannot attack in its effect or use its effect this turn. You can only use each effect of Junk Converter once per turn. So just having that setup all together means you can send this card and Quick Draw Synchron to the graveyard to add cards like Junk Synchron to your hand, and then normal summon Junk Synchron to special summon your Junk Converter, and then use the effect when it was sent for a synchro summon from the graveyard. It's a 3-of for sure in any Synchron deck, just for that overall setup. It's meant for search power. It's meant for giving you resources from the graveyard, making it so it's that much easier to get cards out like Satellite Warrior, being one of the more boss monsters in the deck and needing 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner synchro monster, which you can easily set up on the field all together. And I also run 3 Doppel Warrior with this card. When a monster is special summoned from your graveyard, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if it's sent to the graveyard as a synchro material, you can special summon 2 Doppel tokens onto the field. So the biggest thing with this deck is also just adjusting levels to make sure we have the proper level for our synchro summon. So being able to get tuners with, that setup with Doppel Warrior and then getting tokens on the field to use makes it all the better of a card. Just an easy special summon onto the field to use, and then basically resources afterwards when you invest into the synchro summon with those tuners on the field. I keep saying tuners, but they're tokens onto the field to use. And for more easy special summon with cards on the field, I run 3 Junk Forward. One of my favorite plays to do. Early game, if you open up Junk Synchron, you have nothing in the graveyard, but you do have Junk Forward in your hand. You can special summon Junk Forward onto the field, normal summon your Junk Synchron, and then right there is your level 6 play to go for your Stardust Charge Warrior, which is draw power and just a pretty strong monster to go up against your opponent, being able to attack all of their monsters. So this is also just another resource card. If you have, let's say, your Quick Draw Synchron special summon out, you can special summon Junk Forward beforehand and then have the requirements needed for some of your stronger synchro monsters to go into, as long as you have more and more resources also to rely on. But it's just that setup that definitely can come in handy with the deck. For some of the lower numbers, I also run 2 Boost Warrior. Same premise as with your Doppel Warrior. If you control a face-up tuner monster, you can special summon this card from your hand in face-up defense position. All warrior type monsters you control gain 300 attack. With this card, you can even just normal summon out your Satellite Synchron, special summoning your Boost Warrior, and then having all you need to go into your Martial Metal Marcher, which then can give you more special summons with that play. So Boost Warrior is just that additional monster being an easy special summon from your hand onto the field, just needing what basically is the main requirement for any of your plays in this deck. And even more special summoning comes into the form of Jester Confit. You can only control 1 Jester Confit. You can special summon this card from your hand in attack position. If summoned this way during your opponent's next end phase, target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, return that target and this one to the hand. But we just use it for that easy special summon along with Boost Warrior. It's just that much easier. A level 1 adjustment for whatever synchro plays you might want to make in the deck onto the field. And if not, it'll bounce a card in your opponent's field and then this card back to your hand for you to reuse next turn. For some of the one-ofs that I run in the deck, I run 1 Quillbolt Hedgehog. It's one of my favorite cards to send off with Quick Draw, because then you can special summon Quick Draw and then that easily special summon Quillbolt Hedgehog back from the graveyard, because you have to have a tuner monster on the field, but you banish it when it leaves the field, but still that good one-of tech to rely on for that special summon. I also run 1 Junk Anchor just as an additional tuner monster in the deck for a synchro summon. You can substitute this card for any 1 Synchron tuner monster, and once per turn you can discard 1 card and target 1 non-tuner junk monster in your graveyard, special summon that target, and if you do, immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon 1 synchro monster, which is your junk speeder that we'll be relying on for that play for a level 5, and being able to substitute it means we can go into cards like Junk Warrior, Junk Speeder, you name it with this card. I also run 1 Dark Sea Rescue. If it's sent to the graveyard for the synchro summon, and sent to the graveyard, you can draw 1 card. So with it, it's just a good 1-for-1 target. If you have all the other monsters, on the field ready for the special summon, Dark Sea Rescue just comes in handy to keep your draw power consistent for that 1 adjusted level. And I also run the 1 Dotscaper. If you could just set this card up in the graveyard with cards like Quick Draw Synchron or even just Foolish Burial, it's just an easy special summon back onto the field to use. It's a once per tool effect for that, but if it's banished, you get another special summon to rely on also, so remember that. And lastly, for the monsters, I decided to stick with Effect Veiler as my tuner of choice in the deck. You can run Ash Blossom, but this just being another level 1 tuner monster this time is just great for adjusting your plays if you need that 1 additional tuner to go into any of the different synchros. If you're missing that tuner monster on the field, but you have all the other non-tuners, if you're not going to drop it for the hand trap that this card is, you can just normal summon Effect Veiler, and then it can be your tuner monster to use for that synchro play. And that is it for the monsters. We've run a pretty high monster count, but that's needed when going for a deck that's main focus is to get out a bunch of different synchro summons. For the spells, I run 3 tuning. Now, this is your search power for any of the tuners you may run on the deck. You add 1 Synchron tuner from your deck to your hand, then you send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. So you can search out any of the main tuners part of the deck. You can go for your Quick Draw Synchron, your Junk Synchron, Satellite Synchron, you name it, and then setting up a potential monster in the graveyard that, when sent there, could be great for setup, whether it be Satellite Synchron if you didn't search it off of this card, or even Quillbolt Hedgehog, Dotscaper, you name it. Anything you send with tuning could just be that extra plus to go for. And to make sure your synchro summons go off without problem, one of my favorite spells in the deck is a Synchro Chase. Your opponent cannot activate card or effects in response to the effect activations of your synchro monsters with Warrior, Synchron, or Stardust in their original names. If you synchro summon a Warrior, Synchron, or Stardust synchro monster, you can target 1 monster in your graveyard, use it as its material, and special summon it in defense. So this card will keep your resources going. It'll definitely be one your opponent will not be on the field if they want to interrupt your synchro play you're going for. That's why I run the multiples of this card in the deck. deck, so you always have this option, and you can see it throughout the game. Since there's no real good way to search this card out, you just have to rely on opening it up, but it'll give you plenty of resources when you invest more and more into your synchro plays also. And then for some of the one-ofs that I run for the spell lineup, I run the One Foolish Burial. There are plenty of monsters that I've already gone over. Quillbolt, Hedgehog, Dotscaper, you name it, when set up in the graveyard, can easily be special summoned back onto the field to use. One Call by the Grave. This is just great for, messing with your opponent's own resources in their own graveyard. One for one, you run plenty of level 1 monsters, whether they be a tuner or a non-tuner in the deck. And 1 Reinforcements of the Army. The search power for this, you can even just go into your main tuner monster, which I spoke of, which is Junk Synchron using this card. And 1 Monster Reborn. Depending on what resources you want to special summon out back onto the field with this card, is totally up to you. You can even take one of your opponent's monsters in the graveyard if they need it for the, tuner or synchro you want to match up and go for in the extra deck. And then lastly, for the main deck, I run 2 Pot of Avarice. This is just great because you run a lot of resources and you can quickly go through a good amount of them. Some of them, you might not be able to easily recycle back into the deck from the graveyard. So Pot of Avarice with that draw power just lets you restart the game in the way you would most prefer to use all your cards on the field for sure. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. I run 1 Junk Warrior, your main go-to monster that you say definitely went into a lot. Just an easy level 5 monster. When it's synchro summoned, it gains attack equal to the total attack of all level 2 or lower monsters you control, which you do run a pretty good amount of level 2 monsters. So just the additional ones on the field before you go into your other plays, and not being limited with a Master Rule 5 now. And what summons you can go for, you can summon this card out and then have plenty of other synchros to go into afterwards, leaving the level 2 monsters on the field for you to boost this card out before making those synchro plays. I also run 1 Junk Speeder. You need 1 Synchron Tuner and 1 non-tuner to make this card. If it's synchro summon, you can special summon as many synchro tuners as possible with different levels from your deck in advanced position. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except synchro monsters. And the turn you activate this effect, when an attack is declared involving this card that was synchro summoned this turn and another monster, you can make this card's attack become double its original attack until the end of this turn. So another power play level 5 monster, being able to use plenty of our other Synchron monsters to make it. It's just great to rely on for giving you more resources out on the field as well. I also run 1 Nitro Warrior. It's a great powerhouse card for sure, just like Road Warrior when you can make these cards, especially with Quick Draw Synchron. Since you don't want to really rely on their original tuners, Quick Draw Synchron is just that much more consistent because then you can choose which synchro you also want to go into. And the 1 Satellite Warrior, you need a tuner and a non-synchro monster, a non-tuner synchro monster to make this card. If this card is synchro summon, you can target cards your opponent controls up to the number of synchro monsters in your graveyard, destroy them, and if you do, this card gains 1000 attack for each card destroyed. So this is just a great powerhouse card late game with more and more synchro summons you do, which our whole extra deck is just comprised of synchros. I didn't want to rely on anything else being the main focus of the Synchron deck. So Satellite Warrior for that boost play, and if it's destroyed, you can special summon up to 3 level 8 or lower Warrior Synchron and or Stardust Synchro monsters with different names in your graveyard, giving you more cards to use back on the field to use depending on which ones you summon out. I also run the 1 Stardust Charge Warrior, draw power, and just a level 6 option to go into, along with Stardust Assault Warrior. When it's synchro summon while you control no other monsters, you can target a junk monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So more resources to go with in this card, giving you more plays for a synchro play you might want to use. I also run 1 TG Hyper Librarian and 1 Formula Synchron. With both of these, you have the option for going into your Shooting Quasar in this deck. So I like to have that set up in one of our other level 5s to go for the main play of Yusei at the end of the series. I also run the 1 Martial Metal Marcher, another tuner synchro if need be, if you need different level adjusted for those plays. Same with Excel Synchron. And I also run the 1 Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, just another great dragon monster to summon out using a synchro monster and a tuner monster when you have them. And I run the 1 Shooting Quasar Dragon, our go-to boss monster. I didn't have Shooting Star in the deck. If you wanted to run Shooting Star, you can always take out the Crystal Wing and then have that be in the spot for this card. I also run 1 Cosmic Blazar Dragon if you wanted to keep the Crystal Wing, but still put in Shooting Star. This is another potential spot to take out, but just another boss monster you can make with all their different synchro options onto the field to use. And the 1 Ultimea Zulkin as the different levels of the same synchros we may have on the field. It's that much easier if you can get Junk Speeder and Junk Warrior out. It's just a great summon to summon this card out for that play using 2 level 5 or higher monsters with the same level. 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner. So remember that being the play with 1 level 5, so Junk Warrior and also your Excel Synchron on the field to use for this card. And then as for your go-to plays, that's what's great about the Synchron deck. Just going off of what cards you may have in your hand can easily set up plenty of plays, just discarding any card to your hand. My favorite still being the option with Dotscaper or Cobalt Hedgehog with Quick Draw Synchron onto the field. If you wanted to run Junk Berserker in the extra deck, it makes it that much easier, or even your Junk Gardna can summon out both of these cards for that play. But also remember with your setup, going with your Junk Synchron and your Junk Converter, sending both of these cards to the graveyard to add one Synchron monster, but even being able to send your Satellite Synchron with your Junk Converter for the search into Junk Synchron, or vice versa, and then summoning out your Junk Synchron, summoning your Junk Converter onto the field, going for your level 5 Synchro play, which can be whichever option you want for the play to go into, your Excel Synchron, and then summoning out your Junk Converter with, if it's sent to the graveyard, targeting a tuner monster in your graveyard, special summoning it, can activate its effects, but giving you more and more plays to go off of with these cards. And special summoning from the graveyard will also activate Satellite Synchron, having plenty of more resources depending on what else you may have in your hand to use. If you had Junk Forward before all this, you can special summon this card, giving you the 2 tuners needed to go into this card, making Excel Synchron afterwards, and going for the Junk Warrior first, using both of these cards to make your Ultimea Zolkin with that play as well. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I always enjoy updating the Synchron decks, and who knows, in the future we might get some cards off of the ban list to further help this deck and then call for another update. But until then, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.